Story 1. I agreed to an open marriage after my wife's affair and let her sleep with whoever she wanted for 10 years. But when? I'm 47, and my wife, Lisa, is 42. We've been married for 17 years, but we've only really lived as a couple for about 7 of those. 10 years ago, I caught Lisa cheating. She admitted she'd fallen out of love with me and wanted an open marriage. We have 2 kids, one was a toddler back then, and the other was a newborn. It was a crushing blow. Lisa said 2 back-to-back pregnancies had taken a toll on her physically and emotionally, and she needed to refresh. Unfortunately, her way of doing that was sleeping with other men. Divorce wasn't an option at the time. We had 2 young kids, and my income was modest. So, I agreed to let her do what she wanted. I moved upstairs in our duplex, and we co-parented. It was messier than it sounds. We split with a lot of resentment and insults, mostly from me since she cheated. Over time, we both threw ourselves into work and daily life, and I gradually came to terms with it. A few months ago, I met Katie, a 30-year-old colleague. We hit it off immediately. Our connection started as a natural friendship, nothing romantic, just 2 co-workers who got each other. We started hanging out outside work, still as friends. Last month, we kissed for the first time, and I realized she's special. Since then, she's been staying over often, and it's clearly bothering Lisa. Technically, Lisa is still my wife since we never divorced. But she's been acting strange, hovering around when I'm with Katie, behaving like a jealous spouse. I had to remind Lisa we're not together, and I can do what I want, just like she has for years. It's hard to explain her behavior, but one night, Katie and I were having dinner in the kitchen when Lisa walked in and asked, "Can I join you?" We exchanged confused looks. Without waiting for an answer, she sat down with her plate. We ate in awkward silence, smiling like strangers. It ruined the vibe, but I thought maybe she was just trying to fit in and gave her the benefit of the doubt. Then there was another incident. Katie and I were watching a movie upstairs when Lisa barged in, demanding I go with her. I asked what was wrong, and she said, "Your kids need you. Our youngest has a science project, and you need to help." I was surprised because we'd already split duties. I helped the older one, she helps the younger. I told her I'd done my part, and this was her responsibility. She got mad, yelling, "What, he's not your kid? Instead of helping, you're slacking off with her. You're so irresponsible." It turned into a huge fight. Katie felt uncomfortable, apologized, and left. Later, she said she wouldn't come to my place anymore, but we kept seeing each other at hers. Why should I sacrifice my life when I never interfered with Lisa's? She did whatever she wanted, brought whoever she wanted home, and I turned a blind eye. Now that I've found someone who makes me happy, Lisa's acting like a jealous wife, trying to sabotage my relationship. When I confronted her, she denied it, saying she doesn't care about my relationship with Katie and that I'm imagining things. I told her if she keeps meddling, I'll seriously consider divorce. She teared up, claiming she didn't mean to interfere, she was just stressed about our son and work and needed help. I called it manipulation, not a request for help. Later, she called Katie to apologize and invited her back to the house. Katie accepted the apology but set clear boundaries, preferring to meet at her place. I'm at a loss. I want to be done with Lisa, but I'm afraid she'll ruin things with Katie. I'm seriously thinking about divorce now. The only reason I didn't divorce earlier was to avoid making the kids choose between us. Now I'm wondering if I should end this chapter and put myself first, even if it means prioritizing myself over the kids, or wait a few more years until they're older. I'm not sure if Katie's willing to wait that long. Damn it, I'm still mad at Lisa for suggesting an open marriage, but I'm angrier at myself for agreeing and not standing up for myself. Edited for clarity. Sorry for the messiness and missing details about Lisa's affair and our split. Many said it's hard to give advice without them. Here's the full story. This happened 10 years ago, so I might miss some details. 4 months after our youngest was born, Lisa started acting distant. She wouldn't let me near her, saying she wasn't ready for intimacy because pregnancy and breastfeeding killed her desire. I respected that but felt her pulling away emotionally too. I suggested couples therapy, but she brushed it off, saying it was just hormones and would pass. Almost a year later, I lost patience and said we couldn't keep ignoring the problem. She either goes to therapy with me or comes clean. She manipulated me, calling me insensitive and selfish, but I didn't let it slide. I checked her phone but found nothing suspicious. She'd deleted most of her texts and emails. One day, she said she was going shopping with friends. I followed her car and caught her cheating with some young college guy. I didn't exactly barge in, I knocked, and this shirtless guy opened the door. Lisa was on the couch in her underwear, trying to cover up. I grabbed the guy by the neck, ready to punch him, but Lisa stepped in, begging me not to hurt him. She was crying, saying it wasn't his fault, he was just one of her lovers. That broke me. She admitted to sleeping with multiple men, and this guy didn't even know she was married with kids. We went home, and I did what any guy would. I didn't hit her, but I called her parents and told them everything. I insisted on divorce, even hired a lawyer and went over the details. But when the lawyer laid it out, I realized I'd lose big. The kids were so young they needed their mom. I could get joint custody, but I'd still depend on Lisa to see them, and she could set her own terms. I could take her to court if she broke the agreement, but who wants to spend their life in court? We live in a no-fault divorce state, so I'd have to pay alimony regardless, and that wouldn't cover child support, which I'd still owe. All I'd get was dependence on Lisa to see my kids. Lisa didn't want a divorce either. Instead, she suggested an open marriage, saying we could always come back to each other. I knew I'd never go back to her, but divorce was too costly. The only solution was to live separately while co-parenting. Lisa called it an open marriage, but for me, it was over. We've essentially lived apart for 10 years. Lisa had plenty of lovers, though she claims none were serious. I know of at least 3 who were more than flings because they lived in our house, went hiking with her, and even joined her on vacations. It wasn't easy watching her bring home guy after guy, sleeping with them in our bedroom. We live in a duplex I bought from an Asian family who built it so their adult son could live separately. The main entrance leads to the living room, then a large enclosed kitchen with a dining area, the master bedroom, and a pantry we turned into a nursery. Upstairs, there's a guest bedroom, a big library, and a terrace, with a separate staircase and back entrance. Living upstairs, I could see most of what happened downstairs. Sometimes I wanted to close my eyes, but I stayed vigilant for the kids. At first, I tried dating too, but after a couple of months, it felt empty and pointless, so I stopped. Instead, I focused on more meaningful things. I joined a badminton club, got back into sports. I was big into track in college, and signed up for a hiking club that organizes solo trips every 2 months. You go alone, but with other solo hikers, which was awesome. I did those hikes every 2 months for 2 years, now limiting it to twice a year. Over the last 10 years, I had some casual flings but no emotional attachments or serious relationships until Katie. With her, everything's different. I'm happy around her, she's someone I could try to love again. But, of course, Lisa, the devil herself, won't leave me alone. Now, Katie refuses to come to my place, and I'm scared she'll pull away. I don't want to lose her. I'm stuck choosing between Katie and my kids, and I don't know what to do. Update 1, thanks for all the advice and comments. I appreciate every perspective, good or bad. I started seeing a therapist, and it's helped me figure out what I want at this stage of life. As many of you pointed out, my kids are hitting their teens and will soon have their own lives. It'd be foolish to miss my chance at happiness with Katie. I had an honest talk with her, telling her how I feel and that I want to be with her. If she feels the same, I'm ready for change. She admitted she has feelings for me too but is uneasy about my family situation. She's fine with the kids, it's Lisa that bothers her. I promised I'd handle it. I'm planning to move out. The kids are old enough to decide where they want to live and can move freely between me and Lisa. Katie supported the idea. My therapist suggested a session with the kids to explain the situation in a clear, gentle way. When I told Lisa, she flipped out, calling me selfish and accusing me of dragging the kids into chaos to chase my obsession with Katie. I lost it and said, "Seriously, Lisa? You're lecturing me about morals and family? Where were your principles when you were sleeping around while our kids were still in diapers?" I told her to stop meddling and took the kids to the therapist. The session went well, they took it maturely, even thanking Lisa and me for staying together for their sake. They said they understand I deserve happiness too. I told Lisa I'm filing for divorce. She acted shocked, crying and saying, "I thought we agreed never to divorce and stay together. Now that you've found another woman, you're abandoning your family for her." I dated plenty of guys who wanted to marry me, but I didn't trade our family for them. I told her to stop guilt-tripping me, it won't work. Just sign the papers. I'll pay for the kids' education through college. You can keep the house and car, that's your alimony. I'm moving out. I'm choosing my happiness because I can. She cried, begged me to reconsider, and suggested I move in with Katie but stay legally married. I said, I love Katie, and I don't want her labeled as my mistress. No one will say it outright, but you're capable of anything to humiliate someone. The divorce papers should be ready soon. I'm moving in with Katie next month, waiting for the kids' school year to end so we can take a trip after their exams, then I'll move out. I'll be glad when this is over. Update 2, man, this woman is unbearable. As I mentioned in my last update, Lisa pulled another stunt. She broke down in front of Katie, begging her to leave my life, claiming Katie's destroying our family and making our kids miserable. She tried to guilt-trip her, but when that didn't work, she went further, telling Katie I don't take her seriously and she's just a fling. Lisa's cunning and manipulative, she knew I was in an area with bad cell service, so Katie couldn't reach me. A less secure woman might have believed her and caused a scene, but Katie's not like that. She calmly waited for me to return. She had my hotel number but didn't want to bother me. That's why I love her, she's confident despite this messy situation. When I got back and heard about Lisa's stunt, I confronted her and yelled like never before. I should have done it ages ago to knock her sense of entitlement out of her. She crossed every line, and no one's tolerating it anymore. I moved out, and the kids chose to stay with me. We don't have an extra room yet, so I'm looking for a bigger place. For now, they're staying with their grandparents. When I was moving, Lisa pulled every trick, guilt-tripping, yelling, gaslighting, crying, begging for another chance. I told her our relationship ended 10 years ago. We just lived in the same house and raised the kids. That's reality. I stopped loving you a long time ago. You're nothing to me. I love Katie and want to spend my life with her. When she got the divorce papers, she tore them up. I had to get new ones, but she finally calmed down and agreed to sign. The divorce is in progress. I haven't contacted Lisa since, though I picked up the kids twice without entering the house. For those curious, my kids are 11 and 13, old enough to understand the divorce and our separate lives. Update 3, I'm happy to report Lisa is officially my ex-wife. The divorce is finalized, and the kids have moved in with me. They'll visit their mom every 2 weeks or whenever they want. The past month was chaotic, renting a new house, moving, setting up our lives. We didn't tell Lisa the kids were moving in with me until I found a suitable place, knowing she'd throw a fit. The kids even suggested keeping their stuff packed and escaping when she wasn't home, but I chose the legal route to avoid more trouble with her. Per the divorce terms, if one of us wants the kids for more than 2 days, we notify the other 3 days in advance. So, I told Lisa the kids wanted to live with me and I'd pick them up in 3 days. As expected, she threw a tantrum, thankfully without breaking anything, though that would have helped our case. Instead, she went for emotional manipulation, hugging the kids, crying, apologizing, and begging them not to leave. She nearly convinced our youngest to stay. Katie had warned me this might happen and advised me to be ready for them to back out. When he called and said he was staying with mom, I just said, "Okay, Dad loves you anyway." The older one was firm about moving. I don't know what happened next, but when I arrived, both boys were packed and waiting. I hugged them and took them away without asking what changed. Katie and I are making the new place cozy for them. The kids are fully involved in setting up their room, picking furniture, and decorating it their way. When they left, I expected Lisa to make one last attempt to guilt them, but she just sat there, crying and hugging them like it was the last time. She told them she loves them, she's sorry, and they can always come back to her. Then she asked if I could stay for a coffee. There was no manipulation in her voice, so I agreed. She sounded genuinely remorseful. "I was delusional, thinking you'd never leave me," she said. "When Katie came along, I didn't see her as a threat. I thought she was just a fling that would fizzle out. I took you and your support for granted, despite everything I did. I didn't realize how cruel and selfish I was until it was too late." I just smiled, kept my emotions in check, and got up to leave. She stepped toward me, arms open, and we hugged, our first in 10 years. I don't know what I felt, not joy, not sadness, just emptiness. The last 6 to 7 months have turned my life upside down. I'll need time to process it all. Thanks for the support. I might update again if anything new happens. Story 2, I divorced my wife because she wanted to give our daughter her late ex's last name. My wife and I struggled to conceive due to an injury I had in my youth, but after 3 years, we welcomed our daughter 3 weeks ago. She and my wife came home from the hospital, both healthy, but I've been sleeping on the couch since due to a fight over our daughter's last name. Before our marriage, my wife was in a long-term relationship with a man who passed away due to mental health issues after serving overseas. She has a 12-year-old son from him who carries his father's last name. Now, my wife wants our daughter to have that same last name. She still uses her ex's last name herself, partly so her son doesn't feel out of place and partly because she thinks it sounds better than mine. I tried to compromise. I suggested that since I've practically raised her son, he could take my last name so he wouldn't feel left out, and she could take mine too. She refused, saying her son has always had his father's name and shouldn't change it for me. She argued it's normal for kids with different fathers to have different last names. I then proposed giving our daughter my wife's maiden name with mine hyphenated. Her son could take her maiden name plus her ex's, so the kids' names would be similar. She rejected that too. The name registration was due Thursday. I suggested registering our daughter with my last name for now and going to family therapy, but she refused, saying, "This is my child. I carried and birthed her, so I should decide." I asked her son how he felt about his sister having a different last name. He said he didn't care, he knows who his dad is but sees me as a dad too. I told my wife, but she accused me of manipulating her son. 5 days ago, we had a brutal fight, after which we barely spoke. I didn't want to keep arguing, this was supposed to be our happiest time. 2 days ago, I gave her an ultimatum, either our daughter gets my last name, or we divorce. I said, maybe your late husband can help raise her since you don't even want to acknowledge me as her father. She called me a manipulator and said it's unfair she can't choose both the first name and last name. When she was pregnant, all her name suggestions were feminine versions of her ex's name: Alexia, Alexandra, Alexis, in honor of Alexander, her ex. If we'd had a boy, she wanted to name him Alexander exactly. Today, I called my lawyer, and she overheard. Now she's accusing me of backing her into a corner over a last name. We settled on her choice for the first name, with my choice as the middle name. For clarity, in the US, people often have a middle name, e.g., John Michael Smith, where John is the first name, Michael is the middle name, and Smith is the last name. It's not like a patronymic. I just want an outside perspective. Am I right, or did I ruin my life over something trivial? My wife is 43. She used her maiden name most of her life but has used her late ex's last name for 10 years, legally changing it 6 years ago when we started dating. I didn't mind, thinking it was for her son, but now I see she kept it because she likes it better than mine. When we discussed marriage, she refused to take my last name, calling mine boring. I was fine with it then. Our relationship was decent, though we had a period without intimacy, which we fixed without therapy. She always praised how I cared for her son but wouldn't let me adopt him, which caused tension, but I let it go to keep the peace. When we were trying to conceive, our relationship felt more like roommates, but we both wanted a child. When we learned it was a girl, we were thrilled. She always wanted a daughter. We argued over names but not too seriously until I realized she wanted to name our daughter after her late ex. Quick update, my inbox was flooded with requests, so here's an update. I contacted the registration office and learned that if parents are married, only one needs to register the child's name. I tried to reason with my wife and organized a meeting with her parents, my parents, and her late ex's parents, plus her sister. It turned out only my parents and 3 siblings supported me in wanting our daughter to have my last name or my wife's maiden name. Her family, including her parents, sister, and other relatives, backed her, saying she carried and birthed the child, so it's her call. To my shock, her ex's parents not only supported giving our daughter their last name but revealed the first name I approved wasn't just a feminine version of her ex's name, it was the name he wanted for a daughter if he'd had one. When this came up, my wife blushed. I asked her point blank, "Would you think it's fair if we named our daughter after one of my exes?" She shot back that I only had 3 exes, 2 with the same awful name. After everyone left, I tried talking to her, but she slammed the bedroom door in my face and locked it. During the talk with her parents, I also asked if I could adopt her son and change his last name to mine. They flat out refused, saying they'd never allow adoption or a name change. I asked why it's fair for my daughter to have their last name. They said their grandson is closer to his sister than I am to her as a father, and the kids should share a last name. They also mocked my choice of middle name and last name for my daughter. Until then, I had a decent relationship with them. I raised their grandson like my own, but now I see how they really feel about me. The next morning, my wife didn't come out of her room. I left breakfast by her door, hoping she'd calm down so we could talk before registration. Her friends started calling, asking why it's so important for the child to have my last name since it's 2023. I explained my side, but they still thought I was being unreasonable. 2 days before registration, she started another fight, insisting our daughter would get her chosen name a feminine version of her ex's. She went so far as to say, "I'd rather die than give our daughter your last name." I'm ashamed to admit it, but I called the police, saying she was threatening self-harm. I'm not proud of it. The police took her away despite her protests. She was fine, it was just an emotional outburst, but I said I didn't feel it was safe to leave her with the baby. I registered our daughter's name without her while she was at the station, giving her the first name, middle name, and last name I chose. Obviously, my wife has serious mental health issues, and I hope she gets help. After they took her, she asked her parents to pick up her son and our daughter. Her ex's parents came to take my child, and I told them to get lost. They threatened to call the police. I said, "Go ahead." They only took her son and left. Over the weekend, her parents demanded I hand over the baby, saying I shouldn't complicate things. I refused. A nurse and social worker visited, and when my wife was discharged, she went to her parents' house instead of coming home. She's been there since but has tried twice to take our daughter. I changed the locks. She's been sending breast milk for the baby through her sister. I've filed for divorce. The baby stays with me for now, as even social services said she's safer with me given my wife's mental state. Our marriage is beyond saving. I doubt she ever loved me. Since this all started, other things have come to light. I'll always love her son and hope when he's older and can make his own choices, he'll come back to me. But, as my lawyer said, don't hold your breath. My older brother and his wife, who have 5 teenage kids, are staying with me to help with the baby. They've been through this and give great advice. That's it. Discussion. What do you think about both stories? On the second one, total chaos. From the start, I knew something was off. It didn't feel like a marriage, more like the wife was using him as a provider. Whether she was actually unstable or not, I'm not sure. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for reading to the end. Check out our previous video linked here, and good luck!